yellow cards, commercials, and killing, and how those things lead to suspension. Hi, I'm Christian Twombly.
And I'm Caleb Robertson.
And today, we're doing a little thing called Soccer for Americans. And it's basically where Caleb asks some questions that people wonder who have just for the first time experienced watching a soccer game. And then I tell him what these things mean or why they happen.
Christian, why don't they just score more? I would watch it if they scored more.
Okay, so the reason they don't score more, if you actually think about it and you watch other sports, they actually score about the same amount. Football, in order to convince you, American football, to convince you that they score more points, they count by sevens. If soccer counted by sevens, I've seen games that would go into 35. So, on one hand, you have American football where they count by different numbers to make it seem more interesting. And then in other sports like hockey, they score the exact same amount, and so does baseball. So the only argument that you would actually have in saying, why don't they score more, is in the case of, like...
Honesty.
Yeah. So in all honesty, the reason they don't score more is because it's hard to... actually, basketball. Basketball, they do score more, and I'll tell you why. Is there a little man sitting on top of the hoop, swatting away all the balls, getting close to the hoop? No, but soccer has a guy sitting in the goal making sure, and getting paid to make sure, that you do not score.
Christian, why don't the games just end after 90 minutes?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a complicated question. The reason it doesn't end after 90 minutes is because the game is over when the ref says the game is over. And usually what happens is someone gets hurt or there's a foul and they never stop the clock because soccer is 90 minutes of only one stop, and that's for halftime. And so it's 45 minutes, no stops, 45 minutes, no stops. Well, when people get injured or fall down and they get a call and you have to get everyone out of the way to do your free kick or whatever, that takes a certain amount of time. And so the referee adds up all of those time limits and sticks them at the end of the game so that that time is made up later on. Now, a lot of times this doesn't happen, and the ref's just like, oh, well,
I forgot.
I know there was at least 8 minutes of people laying on the ground. Just kidding, it was more like 24 minutes. But I'm going to round down and divide by 9, and we're just going to do 1 minute. Or they won't do any at all, because the ref is in charge. This is not a democracy.
Christian, I'm going to ask you a question I think all of America and non-soccer players are wondering. What is offsides?
Oh, golly. So there are actually a lot of people who play soccer and still watch soccer who don't know the answer to that question. It's a really complicated rule. The first part of it is that if you are past the last person who is a defender, so the last person on the other team, if you're behind him and in front of the goalie and someone passes you the ball, you are offsides, and that is illegal. The reason they do this is to prevent what is called cherry picking, which is where one guy just stands by the goal, and then when the other team gets the ball back, they can just pass it long to him, and then he kicks it into the net. Because there's no skill or fun in that. There's no athleticism. There's nothing impressive. You're just standing there kicking things, which is kind of what they do anyway. But it's a lot less interesting if there's just a guy standing by the goal. Another part of offsides is if you are offsides, and this is the part I don't get still as a soccer fan. If you're offside, someone passes you the ball and you come back from being offside and receive the ball, you're still offside. And I don't know why they do that, because that's just silly. But,
Silly
it
English,
exists. Silly British people.
Why are there trees?
Ties.
Ties.
Sorry, I write like crap.
Christian, why does the game just end on a tie?
Because both of the teams had the same score at the end of the game. Next question.
That's actually very smart logic. I don't know why Americans don't do that. Why not stop when there's a foul?
Because it is way more interesting if it is 45 minutes of endlessly running time, plus all of that time gets added up at the end anyway, so why would you need to stop?
Good point, Christian. I'm learning a lot. Are all the children that run out onto the field the players' children?
Are they?
I don't know.
No, they're not.
It's a lot of children.
No. See, what it really is that FIFA is partners with another global corporation that is corrupt. I'm just kidding. They're not corrupt. The other corporation isn't corrupt. FIFA is.
Free Children of America.
No.
You can just take free children and throw them out on your field to make everyone go, "Aww," before they get angry.
Yes. Uh, that's actually a better explanation than the one it actually is. The actual explanation is FIFA is a partner of UNICEF, which raises awareness for like child soldiers and AIDS and things like that. So players walk out onto the field with children who are usually just fans or something like that and have been assigned to a player so that we raise awareness for the cause before we start screaming and lighting things on
UNICEF?
fire. Yes, with UNICEF.
Well, little music trivia for ya. Passenger's new album comes out on April 20th, and all income he makes off that album goes straight to UNICEF. Pretty cool. Great artist.
Hopefully none of it goes to FIFA.
Why no girls?
Because they have their own league.
A league of their own.
Yep. Ho, ho, ho. Nah.
There's lots of crying in soccer.
There is. There is a lot of that.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Why no championships?
Okay. So if you were the best at something, right, Caleb? If you're the best, Caleb is the best at playing guitar. That is an actual fact. If Caleb is the best at playing guitar, and he's been the best for a solid year, okay? And then he enters a competition at the end of the year and accidentally breaks a string. And another kid doesn't break a string, and he wins, but he's not as good a guitar player as Caleb is, then that kid ends up winning something that he didn't deserve. A championship is a lot like that, where it's a one-time thing, and if you lose, you lose. But that doesn't make you the best team all season. No, your record makes you the best team all season. And so I think a chip, personally, this is from a non-soccer standpoint, I think championships are kind of dumb. Because it could be a fluke. You could end up with a Cinderella team. However, there are different tournaments in England. Like the FA Cup is a championship. The Bundesliga in Germany has the Deutsche Polka, which is the FA Cup for Germans. The MLS in America has the MLS Cup. None of them are really all that interesting. The FA Cup is just old. Really old.
Yeah.
I'm going to beat you.
Why no commercials?
Well, because soccer runs for 90 minutes, and why are you complaining about there being no commercials?
I'm not. You wrote it down. Why no hands?
No one actually knows the answer to that. But at the same time, a part of it is also because when football started, it was just rugby. And so they decided one day that rugby and football were going to be two other things. So rugby got to use their hands, and we didn't. Rugby also got to hit each other, which we are not allowed to do.
Well, we can.
We can, as
We
long
do.
as the referee is not looking.
Christian.
Yes.
When does the soccer season end?
It doesn't. And that's what's beautiful about it.
Christian. What is a derby?
A derby is like a holiday. It's the day that your team plays against their bitterest rivals, and you get to see all of your cousins from other towns and other places come out of their hovels and dim, dark pits.
Are these all soccer fans that
That
live in
stink.
Hobbiton?
Yes. That's what the enemy is, Caleb. They live in Hobbiton. It's the day you get to see your rivals come out and get the living crap beat out of them by your team. At least that's the case for my team. And basically they call it a derby rather than a rivalry match just because it's an occasion, it's a holiday, so you want a special name, so you call it the derby. We have derbies in America. No one watches them because they're not interesting. Caleb, who's your derby match against?
Who's my derby match against? Baxter Nichols. I'm calling you out.
Amen.
Amen. In your infinite knowledge of football,
Yes.
can you explain to me why soccer fans kill other soccer fans completely for the sake of the sport?
It's funny, Caleb, because that was actually what was happening just outside. A guy was stabbing the living crap out of another fan. It's very sad. That's what that noise
With a
was.
chainsaw?
With a chainsaw. It was bad. No. Why do soccer
Mexicans.
fans... Why do soccer fans kill each other? Well, it varies from place to place. In Switzerland, for instance, I don't know if you knew this, Switzerland hasn't been in a war since the 1400s, and it was a civil war. And that's a long time for
What about-
Switzerland not to be in a war.
What about World War II?
Nope, they were impartial. So, and in World War I. So Switzerland hasn't been in a war in a really long time. So a lot of what happens is all of the angst that you would normally take out on the enemy during war, you take out on the enemy during the game, or after the game, or before the game. At least that's how it's been explained. And stuff like that happens. Other stuff is just blind racism. Like in Rome, if you are a Roman citizen, you think you're better than the guys who aren't Roman citizens. So they tend to stab each other in the streets over whether or not they're actually Roman citizens.
So a whole lot hasn't changed since like 10 AD.
No, not at all. No, it hasn't. A lot of the stuff that used to be there is still there. It's just now soccer fans are the ones doing it. Which kind of casts a bad light on the sport.
Soccer fans.
Yeah. Other times it's just blind bigotry, like you've been taught to hate people. For instance, in England, Manchester United fans, are raised by their parents to hate Manchester City fans. And so there end up being stabbings because they were taught to hate one another. And so it's the same cause there are fights and wars. It's just...
But it's soccer. It's supposed to be fun.
It is fun for the people playing.
Not
But
for
the people
getting
watching
stabbed.
get bored.
Very bored, apparently.
Very bored, and they stab each other.
Well, Christian, I thank you for your help in fulfilling my questions of the sport.
I was no help at all.
No, you weren't.
Good luck watching soccer. I hope some of this might have helped you, maybe. And maybe there'll be another video later when there are more questions. Goodbye. One time he bit a guy's forearm. Same guy.
Same guy?
Yeah.
What is wrong with him?
I don't know. I think he's a cannibal. Google Luis Suarez. Look at his overbite. It's cannibalistic.
All right. Christian. You look like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
I also look like Luis Suarez.